Okay, well, we're proceeding from a few basic premises and assumptions here, and some inspirations as well. One of the premises is that I really need to find more time to do a better job of editing my videos. That's definitely premise number one. Moving on from that, though, we've got the simple fact that I'm looking at things mostly from the perspective of having read George Orwell's essay on how do we know that the world is round, and also Isaac Asimov's book, The Universe, From Flat Earth to Quasar. And I'm really not interested in trying to convince people that really believe that the Earth is flat, that it's anything other than flat. I'm pretty much starting from the assumption that the Earth is round, and I just want to see what kind of measurements I can make of it using some pretty simple equipment. I'd like to be able to measure the curvature of the Earth, the size of the Earth, maybe the mass of the Earth, moving on to things like measuring the distance to the Moon, measuring the distance to the Sun, measuring the distance to Mars, making at least first order approximations of measurements of the distance to other stars. 61 Cygni comes to mind as a likely candidate for that. The point of it being that most people, even most college educated people, have never actually done the experiment for a lot of these basic measurements in science. We take it for granted. We read it in a book somewhere that the Earth is 8,000 miles in diameter and that the Moon is 240,000 miles away. I honestly don't doubt those things, but if I really come down to it, I do have to admit to myself I've never actually done the measurement myself. So I'm going to do my best to get out there and prove that, or if not prove, at least strongly suggest that those measurements aren't hard to do. And maybe when this gets fully going, I'll not only do videos of me taking those measurements, but find some partners, maybe even enlist some teachers and some local school kids, and we can get out there and have a bunch of people do these measurements. Also, before I get into the full swing of doing measurements, there's a lot of just qualitative science that can be done. Hoping to do some videos in the next week or two on just getting out there and saying, hey, scientists claim that Saturn has rings. Well, let's point a telescope at it and see whether they're right. Because to me, the essence of science that I was taught from a very early age was that it shouldn't be based on, well, I know this because I read it in a book. It should be based on, I know this because I did the experiment myself and I got results that are consistent with what I had already expected to find. Or maybe I did the experiment and I didn't get results that were consistent with what I expected to find. And then I got to go back and check my hypothesis and say, and also check my equipment and say, why didn't I get the results that I expected to find? Hoping to have a lot more on that shortly, but that's the basic idea. See ya.